welcome to Networking Star. And tonight I have a very special version of Networking Star because I have how would I describe her?
You're unsure how to describe your wife?
The most important person in the world to me.
There you go.
Angela Marty Boyle. Welcome to
Hello.
Networking Star, wife.
Thanks.
So on this episode of Psychological, because we kind of gave it our own name, Psychological, right? Because
Yeah.
you're psycho and I'm logical.
Yeah, except for last week when you had a psycho moment and I had a logical moment. So we're both psychological.
That rarely happens.
We're still both.
And I don't know which one you're talking about because last week I had a couple of them, didn't I?
Maybe.
Well, what's fun about having Angela Marty Boyle on Networking Star, where I typically talk to other entrepreneurs and thought leaders and people that inspire us to have, be, and do more. Angela inspires me all the time. And recently we have a person that we work with, and he called us a power couple.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Flattering.
whoa. Yeah, flattering. And it was really fun to hear that. And I said, well, you should have talked to us 25 years ago.
Right.
And that's really what's at. So on this episode of Psychological, Angela, you get to fire the first question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I'll refer to my notes here.
Okay.
Because that's who I am.
Okay. That
Okay.
is who you are. Yes.
That is who I am.
That is who you are.
So in the beginning,
there was
in the beginning.
In the beginning.
We talked about it on the last one, how, you grew up kind of more entrepreneur-ish. And right. I grew up in a family with, parents who worked 9-to-5 jobs.
Right.
And so how do you think that we, in the beginning, started to, balance that lifestyle of business, because you are doing business at home, with our personal relationship? How do you think we kind of started to do that?
We didn't. And I think that's the easiest way to answer it. I remember multiple times where you told me I was bad at business, because when we were first married, I had a cell phone job and I was also building an Amway business.
Yeah.
Our Amway business was making us, $2,000 a month-ish. But my cell phone business was really doing well, where I was just a contractor, selling cell phones. And I was making, gosh, that's 25 years ago. But so I was making $80,000 a year. That's how much I made our first year. And so I was making about $6,000 or $7,000 a month. Yeah. And I was so cocky that everything was working so well that I started our first business, and immediately it started to fail. And we started taking our savings and putting it towards trying to get this to work. We bought equipment. We got a little dumb, terrible office.
Yeah.
And I remember where one of our employees quit, and we were driving home, and you said, "You're not very good at business." And I remember punching the steering wheel.
I was a little brutally honest, wasn't I?
Yeah. And I remember telling this person, I said, there's not many people that can offend me anymore. Yeah. It's really difficult to offend me. I take criticism pretty aggressively. I see criticism as a way to self-correct. I like to take the input, and sometimes it's bad criticism and I don't accept it. And other times there's great criticism and it enables me to get better.
Yeah.
But you always found a way to hurt my feelings, and that's pretty hard to do, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
Pretty hard to do. So the easy answer to that is we didn't.
Yeah.
At all.
And that's what I think, because we kind of explained that to this person that works for us, and he was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
He was like, "What? Really?"
Yeah.
because it appears to them that what we've learned over this 25 years didn't just come naturally to
No,
us 25 years
didn't come
ago.
that natural at
So,
all, and I think that's
yeah.
the main thing, whereas you're far more adaptable now, and I
Mhm.
remember we got engaged on an Amway trip,
Mhm.
and, I'd asked you to go on this trip, and we had to pretend that you were my wife, and we had a fake ring, and it
Mhm.
was a very romantic, location right there on the Mexican Riviera,
Yeah.
on this beautiful beachfront view,
Yeah.
giant king-size beds, and I slept with my dad, and you slept with my mom.
I roomed with your mom.
It's very romantic.
Very romantic.
But, um, but I remember when we first got there, and we hadn't been dating very long.
No,
Uh,
only like 2 months.
yeah, but I knew you were the one. How did I know? I'm not sure, because we are completely different, but you just swept me off my feet. Yeah. And so uh, I remember we had a busload of people down there waiting for us,
Mhm.
because we were going to go on an excursion. And I just threw all my stuff into my room. You went to your room,
It was
and I
right after we had landed
yes, yes,
and just had gotten to the hotel.
yep.
So we still had our luggage and learned about this excursion that was
Right.
leaving in 10 minutes.
And so I threw all my stuff in. I changed to my swimming suit very fast. I went into your room, and I'm like, "Hey, they're waiting for us." Whew.
That was
You
the
got
first
packed.
time you learned.
You got packed. You organized stuff. You were like smoothing things out, and I'm thinking, "Wow, wow." And
It was the first time I learned about you
yeah,
when you want to go. You just want to go. And you learned about me that I needed to take just a minute
a
to
minute.
gather, or 10 or 20, gather my thoughts, gather my things, make
Right.
sure that I have everything that I need because I'm a preparer, as
You're
you
right.
now know,
Yeah.
and hopefully appreciate.
Now I do, but at the time, and I think that's what
Yeah.
I was telling this person is that we're never attracted we're never attracted to people who are similar to us.
Rarely. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
so, I think that becomes atomic, right?
Hmm.
And you're the brake to my gas pedal, right?
Yeah.
You are the one who yes, and I'm fighting it all the time, and obviously we were so attracted to each other, but we didn't know each other very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I think the problem that we have, especially because we've owned businesses since the day we met,
Yeah.
and you've always uh you haven't always been the wind beneath my wings, but really it took a lot of transitioning
Yeah.
to be able to understand that, and I would say it took years for us to really get on the same page with so many things, and we're still so different, but now all of a sudden we're so alike. All of a sudden, 25 years later, 5 kids, we're
Yeah.
so alike. We're not so alike, but yet we are. It's very, very odd,
It's
but it
very,
took a long time.
yeah. Yeah. So going back to what this gentleman said about us, how do you think we now have made it so that we complement each other, but we also are able to separate the business and the home life?
Well, and so the thing is I had a wonderful guest on the podcast. His name was Matt Schneider, and
Mhm.
I've known Matt for years, and he
Yeah.
talked about it. The way that he and his wife got their businesses to get rolling together is stop thinking in silos, but really come together and to complement each other's talents and pull in the same direction.
Yeah.
And we've learned to do that. And though we didn't make the concerted effort to say, "Hey, we should work better together," but I've had problems with partners. I've had problems with investors. And the thing is that I've never had anybody um, support me. I mean, my mom supports me like crazy, but she's my
Of
mom, right?
course.
But there's no one that cares more about my businesses, and there's no one that cares more about me than you. And so I think that I grew to appreciate, one, your strengths, your ability to pull me back. For example, I'm just going, you make me go up to a place that has no internet connection and make me pay attention to you.
I was wondering if you were going to
Yeah.
mention my forcefulness in a kind way to make you leave and travel and get out of Dodge.
I love to travel with the family, but if it weren't for you, I mean, you took us to Uruguay. You took us to,
Yeah,
you've taken us to Mexico. You've taken us to New York. And if it were up to me, I would never do it. And
probably
I wouldn't do it.
because you wouldn't have the patience to plan it, or you're just going that you just don't want to stop for fear of losing that momentum.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
To
And
both.
yes, to both. And so the thing is that how do we get along? For example, you've always been the CEO of our house.
Okay.
And
Good.
where we've had to learn to adjust is like when I come home and I need to, it's like, no, you set me in my way. It's like, back off, buddy. This is my domain.
Right.
And you have the kids on this wonderful pattern. But at time, you need me to be the disciplinarian, and I have no problem being the heavy hand at
Mhm.
times. Other times, I am certainly not the heavy hand, and you come home, and I, as your subordinate in the house, have not done things. I think that last week was one of those. But
Mm.
but the point is,
Was the kids weren't in bed at 10:15 on a school night, I
oh,
think it
come on.
was?
I mean, I was watching a show. The time
All right.
eluded me.
No one can relate to that.
The time eluded me. And so the thing is that, um, you have had areas that you certainly are in charge of. And in our business, it's the same way that, I'm certainly in charge of the businesses,
Yeah.
but you've always been able to give me a good perspective. You've always been able to, for example, I think the biggest mistake that we made of our wonderful time in Costa Rica is that we didn't do this.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
didn't talk about the launching of a business and all the difficulties that we've had trying to find the right niche, and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have spent trying to find what we love doing now and what
Yeah.
customers are wanting. And all of a sudden, our business now, you are involved with the sales process. You're going to Oklahoma. I'm going to a different conference. And now it's not this silo, but you're not just doing the bookkeeping and you're not just the wind beneath my wings, but you are supporting me and I'm supporting you. And
Right.
you present to a certain group of people that love the way that you present, and I to mine. And it's just but it took 25 years really
Yeah.
to start figuring that out.
Practicing, working on it, okay, talking about it later, always making sure that we took time to, like you said, travel,
Yeah.
whether it was an hour and a half away up into the mountains where you couldn't use your phone,
Yeah.
which was awesome,
Right.
or, taking a flight to New York or living in a different country or whatever it is just, I think for us, it was, we made sure that we took those moments, took those times, um, with the kids, without the kids, a little bit of both. We've
Sometimes
always
nice
gone on
not to have the
dates.
kids.
Much better, huh?
Not always. I love the kids, but sometimes it's great not having the kids because
That's
I like just selfishly having you all to myself as well. Come on.
yes. Because if the kids are there, then of course I'm still kind of the CEO, kind
You're
of
still the
running things.
CEO and I'm the subordinate, and it's not very romantic, but
Not as much,
not as
not as
much.
much,
So
but
it
we
is
do
nice,
go on
nice combo.
dates
Yeah.
still. That's always still a good thing.
Well, and I think that, as 25 years, you think about it, it's like, wow, that's a long time.
Mhm.
And but it takes the time to be able to learn each other, and it takes that commitment to each other. And so one of the things that I put on my list, so I almost never on these go through lists, I just know this, that I've studied the other people, and I guess I should know our lives more than anything, but we're trying to figure out how can we be of help to different business owners, and that not just are working with each other, but how do you get through some of those those challenges that you go through. So one of the ones that I put on there for mine was overcoming challenges and building resilience together. And I think
Yeah.
that, so we've had times of tremendous success,
Sure.
and it's almost like you feel like you're in a Bible metaphor of 7 years of a feast and then
Yeah.
7 years of famine. That's kind of what
Mhm.
we have gone through
Mhm.
as entrepreneurs. Whereas
Sure.
in the first of our marriage, you didn't trust anything that I did in business, and were quite critical of it. So much so I had to punch the steering wheel to make sure that I
Yes.
controlled myself.
It took me a while to get used to that lifestyle, not growing up in that way. It does take a little bit to get used to. So, if you
Well,
are the spouse of an entrepreneur, whether it's the wife or the husband, or uh, you are you're in for a ride,
you
let me
are in
tell you.
for a ride. So let's talk about the ride. So, for
Yeah.
example, some of the things that you struggled with were when I started traveling the world,
Mhm.
and I would take pictures in the Louvre in Paris, or I'd take
Yeah.
pictures in Mexico having a gourmet meal with people, or
Sure.
I would be in the Netherlands or wherever, Japan or China. And so you would just see those great moments. And then that
Right.
first real business trip that you went on with me to Mexico, I think that was a turning point for you to understand typically business trips are not very much fun.
Well, typically, yes. And that is when it was actually on that trip that I think I somewhat convinced you that even though you go on a business trip, you need to put some fun into it, right?
Oh,
Where
I don't think it was just you doing that. I think it's when my partners took our company the first time that happened to us.
yeah,
Um, and I had been traveling the whole world,
yeah,
and I was in Taiwan when I started to get word that they were taking the business from me. And I realized, oh my goodness, I've been to Taiwan 4 times and
hmm,
I've never done anything while I was here. So that particular trip,
exactly.
when I knew it was the end, when they were
Hmm.
doing a hostile takeover, I did stuff.
Yeah,
And so it wasn't just you, as important as you are,
combination.
but still 90% of business trips are. I remember when I was in China, uh, we were sitting there and I would send you pictures of one guy on how he smoked every time.
Smoking
So
in the boardroom.
I was just like taking sneaky shots. Like he would
Yeah,
talk one time and he just had it hanging on the edge of his lip and it would flap when we were talking. I think I got on that particular one a lung infection because the air in China is so bad and they're
yeah,
smoking. And that's a lot of the business part of it. And sometimes
yeah,
it took you seeing the crappy part of my
yeah,
travels for you to understand that it's not all good. And you saw that we bottomed out a couple times with our businesses, but yet I was able to dig out and
yeah.
start over to recreate that cycle of tremendous success that would keep us enough reserves when things may not have been as productive.
That is what I know now,
Yeah.
right? That is, well, and for some time, is that I do have the confidence in you to when we bottom out, to come back up. You'll think of something, you'll do something, we'll do it together, whatever it is. I have that confidence that we'll be fine, we'll be okay, and we can do it.
Well, sometimes
We
it's
can
such
hit that
confidence
slump
that
and
it
we can
freaks
come
me
back
out
up.
that I'm like, because I get very, very intense during those times.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, shouldn't she be a little bit more worried like she used to be before? And it's like, now she's completely confident in me. It's like, what if I screw it up? And so, I mean, there are all those times of, those successes together.
Hmm.
But interestingly enough, some of our best times and, closest times have been during those bottoming out periods.
Yeah. they've been massive learning experiences for the both of us. We've come out better because of it.
You've had at least 4 times over the last 25 years to abandon me.
At
It's
least 4.
at least 4. It's like,
I can count a couple more than that. Oh, I mean,
really, really. But yeah,
no,
being
I've
there.
actually never ever thought of
Oh, okay.
abandoning you.
For more than a couple
Never.
minutes, maybe a couple flashes of
I'll just walk away down the street or something, or I'll go drive and get an ice cream. Like, it just can't be in your vicinity,
right.
but never want to abandon you.
Thank you
No,
for that.
never.
Thank you for that. But it's actually what I think in what we're doing now as our business Bimoto is starting to pick up. And it's taken us a bit to figure out that message, and hundreds of thousands of dollars, so much money. It's hard to believe, that we've been able
Isn't
to
it?
invest into it. But now that we see things starting to pick up, it's very exciting. And it's very exciting to see you starting to have a confidence with it. So with that, it's now your turn, lady. What's your question?
It is. It is. Oh, my next question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Okay. All right. So, my next question is, what do you think that we have done to, aside from our business trips and our dates, which are key, what else have we done to nurture our relationship outside of business? Because when we work together, we've had various times of working together. We, when we first got married, we were doing the Amway stuff, and I went to the conferences and helped backstage. And then we have the cell phone business, and I worked there for a little bit while I was pregnant with our first child. And, we've had various times where we've worked together. And so some people can bring work home, and we have, of course. But
I
what
don't
do you
bring it
think we've
home. It's
done?
it's always with me. I mean,
Well,
that's the reality.
that's essentially bringing it home, right? It's
Yeah.
just always there, especially when you're an entrepreneur. So
Well,
how
and
do you
just I can
think that?
address even that part, and then we can talk about the other.
Yeah.
One of the
Okay.
main things that you've done is that you don't guilt trip me anymore for working all the time.
All
And
right.
believe it or not, that's extremely important. And one of the things, I went to a conference once where they talked about the different types of business people. Some people use business as a means to an end. I just like business. I like business. And sometimes people ask about the different things that you're working for, different things that you do. I like the process of creating. And it sounds dumb, but it's kind of my art. And it's my way of getting better, and it's my way of improving. It's my way of working on things. And I like the process of it. And so to me, even though it's a lot of work and there's things that I do that I don't like to do in the business, I like business, and I always have. And so one of the major things that we've done, yes, sometimes you force me to not work. But a lot of times I just don't even see it as work. And sometimes when I just have to do it, you don't give me any guff for it. And it took a long time for us to get to that point. So I think that
You fit the adage then that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your
I
life. You
work,
really enjoy what you do.
so I mean I think it's only partially correct. When people say you
Yeah.
never work a day of your life, oh, you kidding? There's a lot of stuff that I don't like, but I love to work out. I love to work out, and if I don't work out, I feel weird. But there's a lot of stuff when I'm working out that I may not necessarily like, but I've gotten to the point where I almost like the pain of working out. In fact, I do. I like that feeling of at times, even this morning, I did a workout where there was times where you board, because it was a high intensity interval training. And so there's times that you could feel the blackout almost coming because the heart rate is so high. And I like that feeling, and that's strange. I like it. And so, but it took me years to be able to do that. But it's the same thing with business. It's sometimes, especially when you look back on it, the difficulties that you're going through, you really value because that's where you really learn. But all said and done, I like business. And you
Yeah.
don't guilt me for that. And you've never, in the last 23 years, you got better over a 7-year period of time, but definitely for the last 15 years, you haven't made me feel bad when I'm working.
For working.
Because I think you also see how dedicated I am to making sure that we do, that we keep the couple together, and that we really have a fun time together, even on business trips.
So then what do we do to nurture our relationship outside of work?
I think one of the greatest things we ever did was your suggestion to move out of the country. And,
that was pretty awesome.
I mean, we talked about it, and I was just chilling, probably reading emails or whatever the heck I do in the evenings. And you walked in, and you're like, I think we need to move out of the country.
Yeah.
And I said, really? And what'd you say?
Why not?
What'd I say?
Okay.
so then I started.
We have that much trust in each other's inspiration. All right.
And to me, I thought it was a killer idea. And, we sold our dream home. We sold our cars. We sold everything imaginable.
Everything in our house. Yep.
And we sold it all. And I think that being together with our kids and having, when I was trying to decide if I was going to be a baseball coach again, you said, you got to go, you got to do it. You got to do something besides this. So you push me to do things that will take my mind off of that. And I love baseball.
You do.
And I get super, super, enthralled with it. And I love my boys and I love my daughter. So you almost always involve things that I'm equally passionate about, to be able to love and enjoy being with each other.
Yep. Yeah. You got to find those things that fulfill you as a person. And I find those things that fulfill me as a person. And that way, when we come together as a couple, as parents, as individuals, we come as better people because we are fulfilling each each little cup in our lives. You've always said, well, I don't need friends.
I don't.
You always say to me, my wife needs friends. I do. I need friends. Definitely need friends.
Let's just sum it up by saying you're enough for me, but I'm not enough for you.
You know that has absolutely nothing to do with it. But my brother said to you some very wise words one day after you said, well, I don't need friends. And what did he say to you?
Perhaps they need you. And
exactly.
And it's really true. Exactly. And I've done much, much better since then.
You have.
But without a question, you do fill my cup. And my cup runneth over. But isn't that sweet? But the thing is, we do have a strong relationship, but in the beginning, some people say, so how do you get past that first 7 years of doing that? And I actually said, to anybody who will ask me about this, there's 3 things: our common belief in God and our religion, that is on the forefront, and our love for each other, and our strong physical attraction to each other. And all 3 of those things were super, super important, especially as newlyweds, number 3, to get past those that first year was tough, trying to figure each other out. And then came your eldest son, and then we were really cemented in together. And after 5 of them, woo, I'm there forever. Sorry.
I'll keep you
All
around.
right, thanks.
Well, awesome. I hope that this little bit helps people. This, of course, is just touching the iceberg of the many things that we've experienced over the 25 years.
Of iceberg. You don't want to touch an iceberg. This is the tip of it.
The tip of the iceberg. Okay, that's true. Well, we very much appreciate the compliment that he gave us, that we are a power couple, who knows? Maybe we are. Maybe we're still learning how to be. But either way, it was a great compliment, and we appreciated it. And hopefully, any little tidbits you take from it will help you.
Well, and the same thing, even Christina, who also works with us, and she has said similar things about us, and it is complimentary. But she also said, "So, Jeff, how do we categorize when you and your wife do this?" And I said, "Oh, it's business." She said, "How is that business?" And I said, "It's the most important business of all. So even if you're not doing business with your significant other, if you're a business person, or the significant other of a business person, what I hope is the struggles and the victories that we have had in this process can help other business people as we continue to evaluate the psychological aspects of doing business together."
Of why I married an entrepreneur.
So I married an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I married an axe murderer, and you married an entrepreneur.
Hey. I never killed nobody.
Well, I saw you kill a lot of my cows. But anyways.
Oh, that's another story.
Another venture that we got into. But love you, wife.
Love you.
Bye.